In every culture dwells monsters that torment way beyond their own heritage and beginnings. For the Algonquin Native American people, it's the Wendigo, the forest-dwelling cannibalistic monster that is the heart of all things evil. It is said that a Wendigo feasts on human flesh until it is no longer hungry, except that it never really satisfies its hunger. Stories about this creature started as mere cautionary tales within the Algonquin people to discourage cannibalism during the toughest winters. During the cold season, food was scarce, so many were tempted to kill and consume their neighbors just to get by. Eventually, Wendigo fears took on vast Native American territories. Nathan Carlson, an ethnohistorian, described Wendigos as creatures with sharp claws, skeleton-like figures, and massive eyes. Meanwhile, Basil H. Johnston, in his book The Manitous, said that a Wendigo's skin is pulled very tightly in its bones. Moreover, its lips are bloody and tattered, and its full physique reeks of decay, death, and corruption. Other Old Age accounts speak of Wendigos as 15 feet tall monsters with emaciated bodies. For a voracious predator with a strong appetite for human flesh, Wendigos surprisingly don't have brawny, powerful appearances. Its perpetually undernourished state contributes to the idea that it is never satisfied with its intense cannibalistic urges. It is forever obsessed with hunting new victims. But how can an undernourished hunter strenuously chase its prey? As for speed, there are varying accounts. Some claim that escape from an attacking Wendigo is almost impossible, since they can walk for long periods and are remarkably fast. Others say that it is a slow-moving monster, each passive gesture a manifestation of decay and corruption. Non-believers would reiterate that this menacing beast isn't real and is nothing but confined in folklore's pages. Some claim that it is real, only that it has no physical form. Thus, we can't physically see them roaming the woodlands. They are only spirits that attack our psyche and pollute our pure minds with vile judgments. They push their victims to the edge of cannibalism. Wendigos torment their people, so they get consumed by their own corrupted inner selves. In the end, it doesn't matter whether the Wendigo has a tangible form or not. Tradition sure taunts us, but is there really a reason to get scared? In Algonquian Native American tradition, Wendigos are depicted as ghastly predators that eternally yearn for blood and human flesh, but don't always put up a physical fight. It uses its power to infiltrate minds and instill upon sufferers the same desire for a murder that he himself grasps. For the unfortunate victims, it's instant psychosis. Grounded in the Wendigo legend is the concept of Wendigo psychosis, a severe culture-bound mental disorder that is common among Algonquin Indians living in the northeastern United States and Canada. A person suffering from this illness experiences compulsive desires to attack and consume other people, as well as delusions of becoming possessed by a Wendigo. The Algonquian tribes call the Wendigo a spirit of lonely places, haunting woodlands and preying on people who got lost in the way. Forest dwellers and visitors who disappeared without any explanation throughout the decades were said to have been consumed by these creatures. At the turn of the 20th century, many unsolved disappearances had been linked with Wendigo attacks. Wendigo stories were everywhere, and such is the interesting account of a man named Jack Fiddler. Jack Fiddler once served as the chief of the Sucker people of Sandy Lake and a shaman who lived near the northwestern part of Ontario's Severn River. Legend speaks of his astonishing healing abilities, but no detail appears to be even more interesting than his reputation as a self-proclaimed Wendigo hunter. Together with his brother Joseph, they traveled around their native land, helping people who were said to have been possessed by Wendigos. In some cases, it was the Wendigo itself that approached them and asked to be killed as a precautionary action before they hurt others. Moreover, there were family members who reached out for healing before suspected Wendigo-possessed relatives annihilate them. Jack claimed to have killed 14 Wendigos. For Jack Fiddler, a life-changing turn happened in 1907 when news of their anti-Wendigo quest reached members of the Canadian police force. Authorities were dispatched to look into the matter. Not long after, both brothers were arrested due to the death of a woman named Wasaka Pique, who was believed to be possessed by the mythical creature. However, while she became delirious, she never resorted to cannibalism. After being held captive for weeks, Fiddler was able to escape to the woods where he eventually killed himself. Peter, on the other hand, was found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. For many, Jack Fiddler's story is more than just the usual Wendigo account. It is engulfed in controversy, even in modern times, since it demonstrates the encroachment of white men in the indigenous people's lives and beliefs. In the eyes of white men, Fiddler and his brothers were serial killers. But for the brothers themselves, they were doing nothing but being of service to their people. The controversy lives on decades after the incident, just as how Wendigo sightings multiply as time progresses. How can we be so sure that Wasakapique and other tribes people were really possessed by a mythical creature? What if they just went through mental challenges? At this point, it's impossible to know. Are Wendigos only a part of local legend, or are they really depraved hunters of the forests? Wendigo sightings are still being reported by forest travelers, most especially around Lake Mamaiguas in the northern Ontario area. Near Lake Mamaiguas is the Cave of the Wendigo, where bizarre paintings of Wendigo-looking men are found. People travel to this location in Kenora to take photographs of the cave's wall paintings and catch rare sightings of notorious Wendigos. Wendigo territories stretch through far-reaching lands from the Great Lakes and Dakota region to the North Arctic Circle and the Canadian Rockies. The region of Kenora, referred to by some as the Wendigo capital of the world because of what seemed to be endless sightings, was once home to Native American settlements and tribal grounds. From the 1800s to the 1920s, sightings were reported in Roseau. Coincidentally, unexpected deaths happened after each supposed appearance. It was around this time that Wendigo sightings have been perceived as synonymous with a bad omen. Throughout the decades, different people gave out different descriptions. Some say they saw a Wendigo and that it resembles a Sasquatch. Others describe the creature as having werewolf-like features. The only thing that is clear now is that something haunting thrives within their midst. In 2020, mysterious sounds in the Canadian wilderness were heard and recorded by a hunter named Gino Mikas. He was out hunting with his wife and grandson in the northwestern Ohio's forests when they suddenly heard weird howling noises in the far distance. As an experienced hunter, Mikas is familiar with nature sounds in the area. Normally, it's just black bears, mooses, and wolves that roam this part of the woodlands. He said that the noise sounded heavy, and they could almost hear it moving. This eerie sound forced their group to retreat and head back to their car. Listen. Commentators say that it can be either a large wolf or a grizzly bear in distress. Grizzlies have not been documented yet in the area, but recent studies show that their range is a lot wider than experts first thought. If not known wild animals, was it Bigfoot or a Wendigo? Jolanta Kowalski, a spokesperson for Ontario's Ministry of Resources and Forestry, said that their biologists don't believe that the sound came from an unidentified species, more so a mythical monster. They admit that they don't know the source, but are skeptical of Wendigo and Bigfoot theories. Legend introduces us to a monster that we will surely run away from to save our tangible and psychic flesh. The Wendigo haunts our minds just as it hunts our tangible selves. But what about in real life? Do Wendigos really exist? For now, it's impossible to know, most especially if the villain can ride the breeze and can't meet our eyes.